Nowadays, the majority of essays are written by someone with the IQ of the average 8-year-old. And if you're multitasking, I'm sorry to say, you are one of them. Hey there, I'm Gustavo from Spot On Uni. In this video, I want to explore with you the myth of multitasking and its consequences on your studies. You heard it right, I said the myth of multitasking. Here's what I mean when I say a myth. Research has actually proven that the human brain is unable to multitask. So much so that when you look into research, the scientific term isn't multitasking, it's in reality task switching. In reality, when you think you are multitasking, what you are actually doing is moving your attention from one thing to another in a very short amount of time. And because the switch in focus happens so fast, you are under the illusion that you are multitasking, when in reality, you just switched tasks very rapidly. Let's just take this picture as an example, and let's imagine, for the sake of the argument, that this is your desk. You are on your computer doing some work. Then an email comes through. You switch your focus from whatever you're doing to actually looking at the notification and deciding whether you open the email or not. This is the first switch in attention. Then you decide to have a quick look on your phone to see if you had any new messages or what is happening in the world of social media. This is a second switch. Then you go quickly on your tablet to check your personal email. This is now the third switch in focus. Let's now say that you went back to your laptop, ready to work, and you resume working. You now had 4 switches of attention without actually noticing it, but every one of those made you lose out in terms of productivity and focus. This scenario represents what happens for almost every one of us. Why do I say almost every one of us? Well, actually, research has identified that there is about 2.5% of the population that can genuinely do multitasking. Only 2.5% of the population are able to work on 2 tasks at the same time without the need for rapid switch of focus. When I came across that figure of 2.5% for the first time, I decided to run some calculations. And those calculations show me without the shadow of a doubt that the majority of us actually will think that we must be in the 2.5%. Sadly, as you probably know intuitively, it's not possible, and it's very unlikely that you are part of the 2.5%. I, as a matter of fact, know that I am not. That being said, let's just assume that we're all part of the unlucky majority that cannot multitask. And let's look into how the process actually works, or in this case, doesn't. Whenever you need to pay attention to something, your prefrontal cortex, or PFC, is the one orchestrating everything. Whenever you're concentrating all your attention on a single object, both the left and the right hemisphere of your prefrontal cortex work together as a team. However, if you want to focus on something else at the same time, what happens is that this partnership between the left and the right hemisphere stop working. The left hemisphere will take care of one of the objects and the right hemisphere will take care of the other, but they are not working together anymore. And because you're spreading your attention between 2 things, you are losing out on the benefits of having both hemispheres working together on the same problem. What's even more interesting when it comes to learning is that you don't actually have the same brain regions that come into play when you are monotasking or multitasking. Indeed, whenever you are monotasking, the hippocampus is the one that comes into play. And the hippocampus is responsible for storing and recalling information. On the other hand, if you are multitasking, or as the researchers described in their paper, distracted, the brain region that comes into play in the process is called the striatum. The striatum is involved with learning new skills, rather than learning or storing information. And because the hippocampus wasn't activated while you were multitasking, all the information you learned will be less flexible and much harder to remember. Time to look at the consequences of multitasking. I hinted to it in the introduction of this video. When someone multitasks, their IQ drops to the IQ of the average 8-year-old. Researchers have also identified that by multitasking you are achieving lower information retention and forgetting more details, making up to 3 times more mistakes than if you are fully focused. There even is evidence that the harder or more complex a task is, the more mistakes you make. And finally, it is much harder for a multitasker to filter out irrelevant information and maintain high levels of attention. Problem is, attention is key to learning. In addition to that, when you are multitasking, not only are you making yourself easier to distract, you're also preventing yourself from having deep focus and engaging in deep learning. With all that we just discussed, you probably won't be surprised to know that multitasking will impact negatively your learning and studying, the quality of your homeworks, and more importantly, your grades. Seeing the negative impact of multitasking, you might be asking yourself whether that's something that we can learn. In other words, can we mitigate those effects and become good at multitasking? Unsurprisingly, scientists have tried to answer this question. Sadly, they found out that we cannot, as human beings, multitask. But, for some reason, our distant cousins, and by that I mean the monkeys, are able to learn to multitask with training. If you are one of the majority of people that multitask, I have great news. It might actually sound obvious, but just to be safe, I want to spell it out. Because you will be starting your journey from multitasking to monotasking, you will see drastic improvement in your performance, and you'll see a fantastic increase in your productivity and your grades. And because it's such a difficult transition to be made, my next video will look into tips on how to monotask. That was it for today, folks. Please don't forget to leave me your feedback. Not only does it help me understand what is or isn't working, it gives me an indication on what kind of topic you'd like me to cover next and what help I can provide you, so that at Spot On Uni we can help you unlock your success. Hey there! Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to find out about one technique that will give you an unfair advantage on top of everyone else, give you better grades by studying less, you can just follow this URL and I'll teach you exactly how to do it. I'll see you there. Take care.